All right, so we're
Yep.
recording. We're recording.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I think we get
You
done.
hear me loud though, right?
Yeah, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Good, good, good.
All right. Get there, we get there, we get there. 1 second. All right. All right. Three, two, one. All right.
Yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Cash Boardroom podcast. My name is Ishmael Beg, and first podcast, first episode, the Cash Boardroom. I am here with my co-host, Mr. Uni Abdul from Guyana, and this is going to be exciting one. So the whole podcast is going to be about finance, business. We have Uni here with his finance expertise and myself with the business side of things. We're going to put our minds together and really help you guys out. So, Uni, what's up, man? How you good?
Hey, good man. Good.
That's good. That's good.
Happy
So,
we get this started.
yeah. It's been long overdue. We just planned this. What, 2 weeks, 3 weeks now?
I
We
think
we were
we got to check back the chats, but I think we nearing on a
yeah
month, maybe even more. Who
yeah.
knows?
About
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
about that. So,
yeah, yeah,
I noted a couple of details, and we said, here's what we put our minds together, and we realized we wanted this to be a real value pack, real strategy,
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. So, you need for everybody who now watching first episode, tell me a little bit about yourself, your expertise. Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Right. So, starting from the earlies, right? I was very obsessed with money as a young teenager. I remember I had a logbook, allowance, and any expenditure, money in, money out. I used to track,
Right.
right? And then, as I developed, went into my studies and my career, finally start earning some money. I was able to actually be able to manage that. I'm based in Guyana, but I would have lived overseas for many years,
Right.
earning quite a high salary over there. So I had a lot of money to play around with, both to burn and to
Hmm.
manage well. So a lot
Right.
of work took place personally in terms of my finance journey, being able to handle that money. And then I took a lot of influence from, guys like Dave Ramsey and stuff, you know, in the personal
Hmm.
finance space, and some of the other newer personalities, which, a lot of our viewers might know about. And then, of course,
Right.
I have my own TikTok. So it's at uni.abdul, right, on TikTok. And I have my website, which you can see at the bottom here, financeguyana.com. Right. If you go there, you can link to my TikTok as well.
Wonderful.
And for the last 4 years, I've been on TikTok, basically, sharing advice and, thoughts on finance. One thing I would say, right? I don't really do the typical finance content in the sense of, okay, you get your salary and you take this amount of money and save it. I
Yeah.
really like to explore this psychological aspect of money, which is kind of
Yeah.
unexplored. So I really operate within a niche of a niche in terms of that, right?
Correct. Correct.
So, I really
Yeah.
try to get to the core of the issue because I think money behavior and psychology is obviously quite
Yeah.
interlinked.
Yeah. I, I,
Yeah.
I think you do bring a very fresh perspective when it comes to
Mhm.
finance,
Mhm.
especially in a very raw and dry way. It's no nonsense, and but it's relaxing at the same
Mhm.
time. You don't feel because people don't like to talk about money. They don't like to talk about the finances. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
you really, you know, a
Mhm.
lot of people in their alone time, you pop up is just like, you know, hey, this guy, I really had to get my act together. So
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, I
that's definitely
appreciate it.
good. So
But I really like your perspective as well. You kind of come from a very
yeah,
practical side of things, especially with your
yeah,
import export. The Panama boot camp and these are
y-
the things that
yeah,
you're in at your
yeah,
website ishmaelbake.com. So I really like you have a very practical, hands-on approach. You test theories. You can start
yeah,
a business with 200 US and that kind of stuff. So I
yeah,
really like
yeah.
that angle that you come
So
from as well.
most definitely, because I think I started this TikTok account about 2 or 3 years
2+ years.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 2+ years. And my specialty is import export. I help you find profitable products and show you how
Mhm.
to wholesale it, retail it, really
Mhm.
just going down to the basics of business and how
Right.
to really you know, you strip away all the fluff, strip away all the terms, and people. I even tell people, don't even register the business as yet. We just want to prove you want, cash in
Yeah,
hand
yeah,
and all
yeah.
these sorts of things, and then we'll sort out, registering this and all these sorts of things because people they come into play and they do this and the logo and they when you check there how much are thousands of dollars in and not a sale is even made. And I said,
Right,
here's
right.
what, you know what, let me break business content down so easy and simple
Hmm.
that it takes away the fear, the anxiety, and all these sorts of things. So just like you would finance, I approach it from a psychological basis as well, where it's all here first. It's all here, setting up here first and getting that down. So, guys, for everybody who's watching, that's just a little bit about us. Um, in future episodes, we are just going to be covering a lot of different topics. We're going to have like strategy episodes. We're going to have probably, we're going to set up things to have calling episodes, probably live comments, all these sorts of
Yes.
things.
Yeah, yeah.
We at the end of the day, we want to give it and make it very, very valuable. So this episode, we're going to be covering a couple of issues. I'm here in Trinidad and Tobago, so we're covering a couple issues, kind of comparing certain things between Trinidad and Guyana. And that brings me to one of
Well,
the,
talking about Trinidad and Guyana, right? Right now, those two countries are not doing well in terms of their relations, right? After the CPL, so this podcast is meant
yes,
to heal that
yes,
relationship, right?
we play in international relations. We
Yes,
we
yes.
we doing PR international
This is
relations.
this is a foreign diplomacy effort.
Yes, yes, we understand the situation with the lights, but
Yeah.
do understand. Yes, that was crazy. That light thing was crazy. That's a whole
Yes,
other
it was quite
podcast episode.
unfortunate, especially how Nicholas Puran was about to have an X100, just short of an X100.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, which brings me to uh the announcement President Irfan Ali made with regards to the $200,000
Hmm.
um grant, I should say, or
Yeah, it was
yeah,
initially two hundred
yeah,
thousand per household, and then he changed it to one hundred
right, per
thousand per
household,
person. Yeah,
per person with 18 years over. So
yeah.
you're in Guyana. President Irfan Ali is doing a lot of work in Guyana as well. What does this mean for Guyanese people? Tell us what they should be doing with this when they get it, how this is going to work, how it's going to be distributed. Let me hear what's going on with it.
Right. So, with regards to what does this mean for Guyana? So, we would have been producing oil since around December 2019. That's when we had our first lift of oil. And
Right.
obviously, heading into the next year, we went into a pandemic where we had record inflation, grinding halt of business activity because of COVID-19 and some other issues like the electoral crisis that took place here in
Yeah.
2020. And then coming out of the pandemic, we had to have a recovery period. So all this
Hmm.
time, the oil was pumping, all right. And we would have amassed quite a bit of money in our natural resource fund, all right, which is basically a sovereign wealth fund. Um,
Hmm.
the government of Guyana would have been going to parliament for supplementary releases of those funds to, execute infrastructure projects and other things that they have to get done. During this
Right.
time, because we would have been lifting oil from 2019 to now, there would have been pockets of society, especially political groups, that would have been calling for cash disbursements to the population. Um,
Right.
both sides of the political aisle have been quite timid to approach that topic because
Hmm.
and this going into a bit of economics, right? There's two types of economics: classical economics and Keynesian economics, where the classical economics says you don't really take money to pour it into the economy and just give it to citizens
Correct.
like that.
Yes.
That is not, prudent. But then there's Keynesian economics that says that government must intervene at an appropriate time when things are not
Correct.
going okay. So there's those different
Hmm.
schools of thoughts floating around in both sides of the aisle,
Yeah.
right? Anyway,
Hmm.
to make a long story short, we're here now today where President Ali actually ended up giving some of the money from the oil to citizens in the form of 100,000 Ghana dollars per person cash grant. Now, 100,000 Ghana dollars is 500 US. All right. But
Right.
he was very careful to say that it is a one off cash grant. There is no
Correct. Yes.
inkling or alluding to it being
Future.
something that's going to come back. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
So.
and I guess people are very excited. And, to be honest, they are looking forward to it next year. I personally,
Right.
like I would have mentioned, we had personal discussions. I personally don't feel it's something we should have ever touched because I feel like it's not going to open a can of worms. Because next year, November's election, and they gave this
Mm-hmm.
money in October 2024. So when October 2025 comes around and he does not give it out, it's not going to look good for November 2025 election
Correct.
for the
Correct. Correct.
PVP. Yeah,
You know, and it's very unfortunate that here in Trinidad and Tobago we get nothing. We haven't even gotten a box of
well,
KFC.
you didn't get
You know.
nothing, right? I mean, Trinidad has had, almost, 70, 60 years of beautiful economic growth. Of course, in the last 10 to 15 years, that could be questioned, right? But, I
Oh,
mean,
most
Trinidad,
definitely.
yeah, but Trinidad on a global stage, has benefited tremendously, both culturally,
Yeah.
economically. You're one of the
Yeah.
strongest economies in the Caribbean, strong manufacturing. But again,
Yeah.
we had personal discussions about this. At the end of the day, the small man got go and put gas in the vehicle. And
I like I
he
tell you at the end all these fancy political and financial terms does not benefit the man who had to go and fill gas after and had to
that's
stop
true.
and buy a bread and he had to be like, you know what, I have $25 and bread is now $30. That's $30 for everybody, watching on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
So and let me make this clear. Let me make this crystal clear. Everybody watching this podcast, listen, we ain't gonna be serious about it. I am gonna push uni buttons. I am for the people. We both for the people, but I ain't gonna be like, yeah, but how that helping me out? How that
Yeah, yeah,
bringing on
yeah.
my loan? I, people out here had to, they had to survive,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what it is. We're gonna be taking the business terminology, the financial terms, and what things we don't understand what they mean. We're gonna break it down simple for you. So transitioning to that, the citizens of Guyana, let's say they get this 100,000.
Hmm.
What should they do with this 100,000?
Well, of
Sport it
course,
out.
yeah, that's an option. That's an option, right? Because everybody's person. Remember, the whole country of adults getting this money. And of course, there's a wide range of, you know, economic situations that people are experiencing. Some people are doing very well, some people are doing not so well, some people are doing terribly. So obviously, those economic states would now dictate what happens, right? Um, you can save it, which I personally would advise most people do, right? Especially people who necessarily would have never had savings before. And
Mhm,
why my reasoning is for you to save it is because you did not know that this money was coming, right? And
mhm.
say this money never came, you would have continued your life anyway as if nothing ever happened. And
Correct,
you
correct.
know, outside of whoever you owe money, them popping a cap in you, you would have continue living, right? So pretend that the money don't exist, save it. For persons who never had a
Correct,
savings,
correct.
this is a golden opportunity to use this as a seed money to start one, right? 100,000 can turn into two and so forth. And depending on your personality style,
Right.
you can pursue those savings. Most
Hmm.
people, the reality is they'll probably spend
Yeah.
it on, some necessities. If they're doing a little better, some trinkets. Some
Hmm.
people may choose to go into a little small business,
Hmm.
pay off debts,
Yeah.
these kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think uh my thing is that if I had the 100,000, because from a business side of things, I would have just taken it and you know put it towards something that will actually build a cash generating business. And it could
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
how small, it doesn't matter. For Guyana, you probably start a little egg ball stand, a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
something
Or
on a
mind some
yeah,
chicken, mind
something.
some chicken. Yeah.
buy something, wholesale it, retail it back, at least something that you could take that and grow it. Because like I tell people in when you now start a business, all of us, it doesn't matter
Hmm.
on corporate level, you have for Trinidad, a little double stand, you're selling
Hmm.
something. When you have a business, it's like a farm. You had to get up every day and look after the farm. You had to water them plants. You had to, sun, rain. You have to deal with the weather conditions. And I think once people understand their expectations when it comes to, for Guyana, the 100,000 grant,
Right, right.
what are their priorities and responsibility? I
Hmm.
think that then puts into perspective and paves the way for a lot of these citizens, of Guyana. So, um, I hope, um, all this content we do in here, the people, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, give me a little, a little,
A
at
creative
least,
grant or
at
something.
least, at least tell we here, like, I don't know, a little 300 US, 400 US. I mean, right now I had to carry my ticket in the bank to just get 200, It's
Oh,
really
shucks.
bad.
Wait. You
It's
have to
re-
show your plane ticket to get
yes. So
US from a
the
Trinidadian
foreign,
bank?
so this is
Jesus
actually one of the
Christ.
topics we need to discuss. So let's get into it. The foreign exchange is so bad
Right.
in Trinidad and Tobago that if you bank and stand up 8 o'clock as soon as they open the door, the allocation for that US for the day sells out in like 20 minutes to half an hour.
Right, right.
And whatever you go and ask for, they have to approve. And the most glamorous out of this world you might actually get in cash might be a 500.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you have to travel, you have to present your ticket to show that you're traveling. At best, if you beg the teller, you get 300. Worst case scenario, you get two or none. It's really, 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 really bad here, and it's like restrictive. They just Scotiabank and a couple other banks dropped their credit card limit, right?
Yeah.
They started to even ban certain vendors. Imagine recently, about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we had an issue where um, a lot of persons were paying their Facebook ads. This is Facebook,
Yeah,
Facebook,
yeah, yeah.
Zuckerberg, and Scotiabank were flagging the cards down, right? Now, I just want to make something clear here. When we're talking about companies and that kind of thing, it's not retail, but talk the service
Yeah,
and
yeah,
what
yeah,
it
yeah.
is. It's just, remember the banks, they have to conform to central bank and what the government says. So it's not really an attack on the
And, and, and,
banks.
and
It's
even
really
and even from
analyze.
the bank's perspective, right? They can't be seen as, oh,
Yeah,
Ishmael going to the bank and he can get 10,000 US, but the guy behind he can only get 500. Some discrimination or some magic, some corruption going on there, right? So from that perspective, they got to give everybody, they got to ration it, right?
correct, correct. So they definitely need to basically um, conform to the laws of the government. And it's the same thing with Guyana as well. They have to conform what the government has, issued in terms of laws and that kind of thing.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, it's really, really bad. The cards, they started to block transactions with Facebook. You have to call it in, approve it, and then now when you're actually traveling outside, they're limiting it. Um, so it's really, really bad, because if you look when somebody starts a business and they're ordering from Alibaba, remember the business is growing. So they probably start with
Right,
a
right, right.
500 US, scrape up. And then, okay, business growing, I need 1,000, I need 2,000, 3,000. And it becomes difficult, more difficult. Now, me explaining this situation to you, and you have a little bit of knowledge of the economics and a little bit of finances with Trinidad, what could be the cause of a country having low foreign exchange?
Right,
What do you
right.
think that might cause?
Well, one thing to be cognizant of is Trinidad is, for all intents and purposes, still at the end of the day, core dependent on oil and gas. All right.
Right.
For the last couple of decades, it has based its economy on that. There have been
Yeah.
other sectors that have tried to diversify it in. There's a strong tourism
Hmm.
sector, there's a strong manufacturing sector, but it's still not enough to supplant the revenue that oil and gas traditionally would have provided. And as the
Right.
output of both oil and natural gas has decreased, right? Obviously, concurrent, the simultaneous decrease in foreign exchange has taken place, right?
Hmm.
But with this new war with Ukraine and the Europe cutting off gas supply through the Nord Stream 1 and 2 from Russia,
Hmm.
Trinidad has risen to the table to become one of the largest exporters of natural gas to Europe. So
Hmm.
that situation should have improved a bit in terms of the 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 foreign exchange situation. But then
Hmm.
again, we're shipping to Europe, so it might not be US. But then again, the petrodollar is a standard, right? So even though it's between Trinidad
Hmm.
and Europe, it should have been passing through the US currency, and then
Yeah.
obviously that would
Yeah.
pass on to Trinidad. So
Yeah.
maybe the situation could have been a little worse. Yeah, I sound like I'm trying to give the Trinidadian government some excuse all the time. I apologize for that, but I mean,
Hey,
I'm just
stay
talking the
across
truth,
them,
right?
man.
I mean,
Stay
because this war with you,
across.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing, right,
Hmm.
is that the Trinidadian people are not stupid people. They can see what's going on. They can feel, for better or for worse, right? And this is not a UNC or a PNM thing. The
Hmm.
sentiment in Trinidad, and this is me as an outsider looking in, right? I obviously have no horse
Hmm.
in the race, but the
Right.
general impression I get from Trinidadians is that they're not too happy about the state of things. And obviously that translates financially. So what do I mean? They're going
Yeah.
to start not wanting to hold TT dollars. All right.
Hmm.
So, or they want, or if, instead of storing TT dollars, they're going to want to use a safe haven currency like US currency to store it. So maybe there's some people hoarding US currency, as part of their personal savings. And the other thing that potentiates this crisis is the same thing you've been experiencing. If there's foreign exchange controls in place, right, you are going to rush for that same thing that you can't get. Because if
Hmm.
I know, shucks, only 200 US every month I could get, I even if I don't need it next month, I can just go and get it, because there's a crisis, there's a
Hmm.
control, there's a levy
Yeah.
in place. So now I have to try and
D-
accumulate, right?
do you think it could become a situation like um I know Curacao when I've been to Curacao,
Mm-hmm.
um because Curacao has their own currency, but they actually trade in US dollars as well. Like it's the main currency. So do you think for Trinidad, because of how bad it is, it would become so low to a point that the TT dollars exist, but they need some stronger currency. Obviously, the US dollar, but now it becomes in the country where the TT dollar exists. You could pay with that if you want to,
Mm-hmm.
but the main thing that would be traded is US dollars. Do you think a double currency will start to exist and be normalized like other countries in Latin America and stuff?
There are some countries that do that as a formal part of your economy, like Panama, if I'm not mistaken. Panama trades, they
Panama,
have,
yeah, yeah. When
yeah,
when I was in
yeah,
Panama, yeah, they
yeah.
trade. I mean, actually, the ATMs in Panama dish out US. I was like, wow, this is exciting because
Well,
I
yes.
made a
So
video
go ahead, yeah.
and I made a video and I was like, look, I use the Panama ATM and Trinidadians were like, whoa, this is crazy.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
with regards to dollar, that process that you're saying is called dollarization. So a
Mm,
lot of countries do operate with that double tier system, or of US floating around, and national currency floating around as well. And some companies do
mm,
it formally, and not companies, sorry, countries do it formally, some do it informally, right? Like Venezuela. All right.
mm,
Venezuelans basically just use US currency right now, and not the Bolivar,
right,
right? So maybe
right.
Trinidad might. I think Trinidad might be, if things continue to get worse, they may end up, the population might decide to dollarize themselves and just transact in US.
Sure.
In fact, didn't Hyatt, the Regency Hyatt in Trinidad, try, there was
Right.
some debacle a couple of weeks ago with that, right?
Correct. So 2 weeks ago, I just opened Facebook, and the Hyatt official page said, as I can't remember, I think they had
Here's
put for
what I
November or
remember with
something.
Hyatt is that they wanted to only accept US currency, right, for all
Right.
transactions in the hotel. And they were going
Right.
to institute that using, by not using fiat currency or paper currency, meaning they would not use Trinidad physical paper currency within the hotel.
Correct.
Meaning
Correct.
you'd have to
Correct.
take your card, and on the card machine you could actually set the currency you want to pull in. I think something like that,
Correct.
and
Correct.
they
You
were going
can.
to just set
Yeah.
it to US, right?
Right.
The
Actually,
thing about
so
that,
on
yeah,
the post, it was actually three sets of currencies. It was US, Euro, and I think Canadian. I'm not sure, but I know those
right.
those were the three sets of currencies they said.
Mhm. The thing about
So
that, I don't think that is legal. Because in Guyana at least, all transactions must be settled in the local currency, which is the Guyana dollar, right? So
okay.
similarly speaking, all right, I don't know, or it might be a gray area if they can make
Mhm.
that demand of people within, physically within Hyatt.
So they ended up taking down the post afterwards,
Right.
right? And sort of correcting it. But isn't a situation like
The
that
damage is
where
done. The damage is done.
yeah. And again, that's to tell you how bad it is where like let me give you a similar example. Like one of the things entrepreneurs like myself, we do like when we're selling our products online or whatever, especially in this situation in Trinidad, is we give two options. We say, here's what you can pay in the TT currency, we price it a little more expensive. Or
Right.
if for us to generate US income, we give you a cheaper price, but pay with your card online.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's that option of I think they should implement a system like that. Say, here's what, you know what? Pay the little more price on the local currency. But here's
Right.
what, if you actually pay with your card, we'll actually give you a 10% off or 20% off. So it sort of
Mhm.
incentivizes the population to really um, you know, have a choice. But the outright, hey, no, we're not accepting it. This is what it is. But I have a question for you. If I think you're right when it says it's a gray area, but if I have a business and I say, here's what, I'm not accepting TT dollars. I'm only accepting US, right? Which technically it's still the transaction will still be valid. All right. Um,
It depends on where that transaction is taking place. For example, if Hyatt is a
mm,
hotel, they have rooms, and if they
right.
want to charge 200 US a night, they can do that because you're doing it on their website. But if I'm physically sitting in the lobby in Port, where's Hyatt in Port of Spain?
Port of Spain, yeah.
If I'm physically in Port of Spain, right, and you're telling me that I have my card here, or I have TT to give you for these daiquiri and martinis I just bought, and you don't want to take my TT dollars, that could be a problem. Hyatt, please sponsor us in the
Okay.
future. Don't get vexed. Right?
Yeah, we for you, we'll come and shoot a little when uni comes to Trinidad, we'll shoot a little podcast in the lobby, and here, I making it clear right now. Give you a little blind, a little wish come and shoot a free episode, and I go pay in the US for lemon, right? That's it. You can put your logo right on top here, and I pay in the US. Me,
That's
my
what we gotta
choice,
do.
my right? I will come. Uni will come to Trinidad. We'll mark this moment, play it back, and we do it a there. Any rep from higher. Don't worry, we for we for y'all. But
Right,
yeah,
right.
but again, measures like these, it's becoming desperate.
Hmm.
Even
Hmm.
even to see it on that corporate level for a
Yeah,
hotel,
yeah.
that's to tell you how bad it is. Um, before we end on this point, I want to ask you, how, in your opinion, do you think the Trinidad government could fix the whole US situation? Should we implement programs and stuff like that to gain more exports and to kind of reduce the imports? I know that's one thing, but what is your perspective that you think that could help the foreign exchange situation in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, the thing about that, right? It's just a matter of supply and demand, right? So that means that there's a lot of demand for US internally, all right, and there's limited
Hmm.
supply coming in. So they have to
Hmm.
obviously now shift that balance, right? So they have to lower the supply, the demand, local demand for US currency, and a lot of that has to do with psychology and tempering down the fear of the Trinidadian public. All right,
Hmm.
meaning that they have to see the economy in a positive likeness, especially moving forward. All right. The other thing is,
Hmm.
and which is the main lever they can pull, is just bring in more foreign exchange. They have to output a lot of gas, and
Hmm.
I think that's why they went to Trinidad, because they wanted to get access to sorry, not Trinidad, Venezuela. They went to Venezuela because they wanted to get access to those large gas deposits, because they can sell them to Europe, all right, and make more
Hmm.
foreign exchange. So that's one way they do it. So all they got to
Yeah.
make an assessment of all the sectors of the economy that bring in US dollars to Trinidad, and remove all the tax limitations and this and that, and just get that money to come in. That's what they got to do.
Unfortunate, unfortunately, um, it feels in Trinidad like a dictatorship. It's just, it's just like, hey, yeah, all what you just said there is all hunky dory and nice. Yeah, you know what? We operating based on chaos, you know, because like what it is right now, and correct me as I go along, is like this. You have a line, right? And let's
Hmm.
say this line represents like um, the flow of the country's cash, the flow of the country's imports, exports, and everything, right? But that line, there's a balance of business, a balance of foreign exchange, etc. But I think now what is starting to happen is that there's no longer a middle class. It's now, it's a lower class, and then there's the high class, high
Hmm.
income
Hmm.
earners and that kind of thing. So now it in the economy, it feels like here's what we're gonna tip the scale now to funnel everything to the big boys, and the lower class has to conform to that, and there's no survival. And anybody who tries to come up, it feels like that. And I think one of the things they've been doing with that is the foreign exchange, the
Hmm.
allocation. Because I mean, and again, I am not how to make this clear on the first episode. I'm not a politics person. My boy
Hmm.
Uni here, he is the expert in that, right?
I'm the
But
the impartial expert, right? Have a very
the
objective view, right?
yeah, we just hear because even though, like I say, I'm not a politics person, at the end of the day, I'm there. I'm feeling the brunt of it. When you have to travel, when you have to, do certain things, and it's like you can't breathe. You really, really
Yeah, yeah,
can't
yeah.
breathe when it comes to business, when it comes to a lot of things. So I hope in future, as with Guyana, next year is their election. Trinidad election is next year. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, I'm looking forward to both our countries. Um, I mean, President Fernali is doing very well. He just sharing, just giving out. I saw I recently saw the Demerara Bridge development that is looking
Oh yeah,
that is exciting to see.
connecting the capital city with the west bank of Demerara County in Guyana. Obviously that's gonna boost
Yeah,
the economy a lot, right? Because right now that Demerara Harbor Bridge is a headache day and night, right?
it is. Yeah.
If it's not some boat crossing and they gotta do an impromptu shutdown, is a boat jamming into
Yeah.
the bridge and it gone down for a
Yeah.
whole day, somebody cut off,
Hmm.
kind of thing. All right, that bridge is madness right now, and that bridge was built. That bridge was only meant to last 25 years. That is the official lifespan,
Mhm.
and is going on to almost 60
Right.
years or something like that. So
Whoa,
this new bridge is gonna they're gonna build it
whoa,
really high.
whoa,
It never
whoa.
has to open or close to allow ships to pass through. It'll be in operation 24/7. And I heard, sorry, I didn't hear the the official pronouncement by the government is that the toll will be free, so you don't have to pay any money. So right now you still have to pay money to cross the old Damara Harbor Bridge. The new Damara Harbor Bridge will be free, and the Borby's Bridge and the Mackenzie Bridge are going to build in Region 10. So all the bridges are going to be free.
Wonderful, wonderful. That is really, really, really really good. I want to dive into something because we have a number of topics here we kind of want to go
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
I saw one of the things you were mentioning to me with the threshold increase for children for Guyana. Tell me a little bit about that and the income tax threshold. Sorry. Tell me, explain,
Right.
what that's about, how it works, and what it
So
means for kids.
right. So as it is right now, um, your income tax, right? Everybody they get a salary, they got to pay tax from that salary to the government, right? But if you earn a certain amount under, I think right now it's about 85,000 Ghana dollars. I'm just using that number. But if you're earning less than $85,000, you don't pay any tax, right? But if you're
Yeah,
earning,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. So
Take what
say
you're
for
doing.
example, you're earning 100,000 Ghana dollars. You don't
Mm,
pay
mm,
like if you're earning under 100,000, you don't pay any tax on that because you don't reach a threshold of 100,000. But if you earn 100,000 or above, then you do pay tax. I think it's
right,
about 28%, right? Something like
right.
that. Now, say for example, with this new rule that they put out where you get a reduction of $10,000 per child, say that you were going to pay if you were going to pay $20,000 in or say $40,000 in tax, right? Now, because you have one child, instead of paying 40, you now only pay 30. If you have two
Mm,
children, instead of paying
okay.
40, you pay 20. All right. So depending on the amount of
Hmm.
children, right, you get an extra 10,000 relieved from your income tax. And obviously, and that's monthly, right? Because maybe you
Mm,
pay a tax monthly. So that is an excellent
right.
benefit that parents will get. But it only applies to
So,
one
so,
parent. It only applies to one parent, right? So only one of the parent can claim. So if the father and the mother are earning a salary, they can only claim from one side of the parent. Not, it doesn't apply to all two.
so, so, okay. So if a guy has 4 children, he basically write off there that the
Yeah,
40,000 write off.
why not? Yeah.
Oh, then, ladies and gentlemen, when you are having kids in Guyana, it is in your best interest financially to have as many as you could. Please don't take that advice from me, what I just said. Use it at your own risk.
It's
Um,
basically free money because
one,
say you got 6 kids. That's 6,000. But then again, you can't do nothing with 6,000 for 2 kids, 3 kids, right? But it's something.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
something, right?
yeah. It's definitely something. I think one of the things when I hear these little things being
Hmm.
implemented, right? Even for here in Trinidad and Tobago, it's like, okay, the overall picture is that the state economy is not where it's supposed to be. But within the systems of a country, it should at least feel like, you know what, I go to the government office, at least get through in 15 minutes. Or,
Hmm.
you know what, at least when I do my taxes or whatever the case may be, I get a little something back.
Yeah,
At
yeah, yeah.
least within the day-to-day benefit of the, the day-to-day dealings, how you earn your income and that kind of thing, it should relieve some stress from the overall picture of the economy. And
Hmm.
It's unfortunate to say that here in Trinidad and Tobago we don't generally see that because
You
the
know what? You know
crime is
what's one
just the
of the
fourth.
things? One of the biggest complaints I hear from Trinidadians, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the random stops, roadblocks. Imagine,
Mhm.
imagine your life is so hard. You had a hard day in Trinidad, and the police stop you. Like,
It's I mean, because from what I've heard, that these services they need to make their quotas,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
thing when it comes to, all these sorts of things, because we have very brilliant speed cameras, and they mark down. It's a it's systemized,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
um
The police got to eat too.
that's some comparing both economies, Guyana is really on a huge growth, and I think um, it's Guyana for the rest of the Caribbean is really gonna set this example of growth of it's kind
A
of
lot
like
of the
in a
a
way
lot
that
of the a lot of the Caribbean
go
countries
ahead.
are talking about oil reserves. Up to last week, up to last week, Jamaica had something in the news about them having 20 something billion barrels of oil. You know, Grenada, on the southern part of Grenada, there was some evidence of large oil deposits. You know,
Mhm,
Trinidad is trying to have a lot of infrastructure. They're trying to get natural gas from Venezuela. Obviously Guyana
mhm,
is pumping. I don't know if
mhm.
Barbados has any plans, if the other smaller islands have any plans for their oil and gas. But yeah, definitely, Guyana has been setting a trend for the oil and gas stuff in the Caribbean. But you got to remember, the
Yeah,
Caribbean is highly dependent on tourism. An oil spill would
yeah,
be detrimental
mm,
to those tourism economies. Imagine,
yeah.
was it Maracas Beach with sludge and oil, and you know
Oh,
from a rupture of
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
well, or Granans Beach in St. George's,
Um,
Grenada.
yeah, yeah. You remember it was couple. Is which country had was it us, boy? The little ship that turned over and it was leaking
That was in
oil and it
Tobago,
went.
right? That was in
That
Tobago.
was Tobago. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
right a couple of months back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
And
the
apparently it
whole
was a Guyanese
coastline.
ship.
See all them man, what them man doing, boy? What you're transporting and talk to all the captain. What is that? What is that? This sabotaging the tourism.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is it clean though? Did you ever hear about anything or?
Yeah, 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 yeah. They had a whole campaign, I think, to clean it, and because that was bad. If you see the pictures, the oil and the
Yeah, I
sludge
did
is right
see.
up to the shoreline, like where you would actually see blue water and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
It was black. It was tar. It
Yeah,
was yeah, real sludge. Um, I want to shift to something on the more business side of things. So we covered a little bit on the
economy
finances
and
and
stuff.
stuff. Um, things are difficult. We have, at the end of the day, you have a person at probably a two-income household, mother, father, working, all right, husband, wife, whatever the case may
Hmm.
be. But there reaches a point where dealing with inflation and certain economic challenges, the money is just not enough. And
Hmm.
with that being said, I want to hear your perspective if somebody who has a regular job and they want to leave that job, what are the things that that person needs to put in place in order to leave that job and really what has become a business owner, entrepreneur, do something that sets them free from the shackles of that monthly salary and give them
Hmm.
some sort of betterment. I want to hear your perspective, and then I'll definitely give mine. What do you think are the requirements?
Well, the thing is, right? You really got to be in a very good position to escape that, right? So imagine having to jump off a cliff and a tiger is chasing you. Will you survive the fall from the cliff? Probably not. But imagine that you were at a day tour at some canyon and you're doing parachuting lessons and you have on a parachute and you still got to jump off the same cliff. Will you survive it? Probably yes. So the situation in which you make that decision to jump off the cliff matters. So if you're in a bad state financially, I know it's not a rosy and inspirational answer, but you really got to address that first. All right. Um, of course, there are many, many stories of people who didn't have anything, went into some sort of business activity, struck luck, and were able to do well. But
Yeah.
for every 100 success stories, there are 1 million failures. All right. And obviously, you never
Mm-hmm.
hear about the failures because they recede quietly into life and you never hear about them. All right.
Yeah.
So before you make the decision to go off into business, you really got to make sure you have a good foundation in which to do so. All right. Because going into business, there's a high risk of failure, right? And you really have to have the support and financial system around you to buttress that. Because the
Mm-hmm.
first year to 5 years going to be really, really hard, right? Most businesses fail
Yeah.
by year one. Year two, a few
Mm-hmm.
fail. Year three, a few more fail. Year four, and you can quote these statistics all the way up to year 10. So there's no guarantee as
Mm-hmm.
the years go by, right? You
Mm-hmm.
might do well, but that doesn't mean everything is all negative.
Yeah.
You can start business from a semi okay position, catch your hand, catch a bit of luck, and you're okay. Luck plays a great factor, and you have to have the spiritual and mental readiness to accept all those things that you cannot measure. With that being
Mm-hmm.
said, you can only control what you can control. Get a good cushion, right? Like a good 6 months of savings or more. All right. And
Mm-hmm.
this is money different from what you're going to use to operationalize the business. Maybe if you're
Yeah.
in a husband and wife or a boyfriend girlfriend or couple household, one of the partners could remain working while one other focuses on business. All right.
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
something of that nature, or you can do it part-time. You don't necessarily have to do it cold turkey. You can reduce your hours to part-time and work on the business part-time until you can
Yeah.
transition. Some people don't leave their job, they just do their side hustle, have a full time,
Yeah.
and when the side hustle makes more than or equal to the job, then they can
Yeah.
switch over. But you got to
Yeah.
remember that when you switch over, you're going to have a 50% reduction, because if you're making $100 a month and the next $100 a
Mm-hmm.
month, you're going to go down, that's 200 that's going to go down to 100. So maybe
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you could do the switch when you're at 2x your current salary.
Correct. Correct. Because
Yeah,
the what people don't realize is that the salary is fixed. It's
yeah,
there. So
yeah.
because in business, sales go high and low. It's unpredictable. Some months you'll have a golden month. I think for me, because I've lived through this. I've lived through the having a job, and then I remember my first job. I'm like, wait, what? I have to get up this early and travel and spend 2 hours in traffic to reach
Hmm.
on time, and then I lose my sleep, and then when I finish, I had to leave in the evening and do it every day. Yeah, I bust out of my first job. Out of school, it was an IT job. My IT teacher, I was really good at IT, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this every day. I am not doing this every day. No, I made that decision. I'm 33 now, 34,
Yeah.
I think. 34, yeah. Yeah, that was back when I was like 19, 20. I made that decision. I'm like, no, I need my sanity. I need my sanity, right? And for me, because I went that route, um, I started to build my skill set then. Now, obviously, I could have left that job and do that because of the fact that I was still in my parents' house. So
Right.
there were actually my briefs until I actually figure out on a skill level what I wanted to do. But for somebody who has a job, I think when they come home from work, you see that period of like probably 8 to about 12 in the night. That's the period where you develop your skills, you do your research, you do
Definitely.
all these sorts of things. You have to do that for at least a year,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
6 months to a year. Do that research, build your skill set, and then try and, write down your phases. Then say, here's what, you know what? Until I build this business to the point that it has consistently 3x, 2.5 to 3x what my salary is, because some people watch it, oh, 2 months straight, a double what my salary making, well, here's what, better leave. You do not leave as yet. You
You
have
don't
to
have
watch
enough.
the
You don't have enough
analytics.
information.
You don't have enough information. Just
Mm-hmm.
recently, I with my programs and classes and stuff like that, I saw a really good month. And
Mm-hmm.
then I said, here's what, hold up, don't get too excited. This needs to be on a consistent level with your sales and in terms of scaling. So yeah, you've done this. Here's what. You have to write down was break even and make sure you don't go below that.
Right.
Keep
Right.
at least one or two levels above your break even and stay right there. So even if you drop one level before the break even, you're still in the safe zone. So um, I think, and then to remember, school has the school curriculum has made us into uh, employees, into the, to go out and work.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
and that's 98% of the population, right?
Well,
On a
here's the
whether it's
thing.
on a
Here's the thing, right? There's an irony to that in the sense that some people like that. Some people like how you and I are very business in tune. Like some people
Mhm,
like, getting up, bathing, going in the vehicle, going traffic, go to work, smile up, promotion, salary. They like that stuff. They're into that world, right? And the thing about it, we as business owners or entrepreneurs or business persons, there will come a time we will hire more and more people, and those people
mhm,
have jobs. They will take on those roles and those styles of life that we were trying to run from, right?
mhm, mhm,
So I always try to see that circular irony, like, oh, we're running from it, but then we'll have to hire people so we can continue to be
mhm.
away from it.
Uh, yeah, we had to look, we, we we had to look for that. That is a good perspective, because it's the we need workers, even though we're
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
run
definitely.
away from being a worker. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
I, I
and
guess,
this existed way before us, right? In when
yeah.
modern civilization was born, right? Our modern capitalism was born in the 1800s or
Mm,
even before. I'm not sure. Right? There were people who owned the methods of production, the labor, the land, the machinery, and they
mhm,
just business is a game of resource allocation. How well you can put money, time, resources in its millions of different combinations can determine your success. And that's all business is about. Finding that correct ratio of things to mix up to pump out
mm,
money, including
yeah,
employees, you know?
yeah. Um, I want to touch on something a little. I know this will raise your answers. I know you like stuff like this. So, just coming back to our first point, um, with the handout, the cash grant, right?
Mhm.
Um, you know, you've expressed this to me in our discussions. Um, do you think Guyana has this handout society behavior? I'm
Guyana
seeing
has
people.
Guyana has
I'm
a
seeing.
handout
I,
society
I saw
behavior.
before you
We
answer,
do.
and let me put things into perspective. There are
Mhm.
people I've seen online in the comments in the Guyana social media that 100,000 can't do nothing.
Mhm,
It should
mhm.
have been 1 million,
Yeah, yeah.
and then what's your view on this? And do you think the people of Guyana will ask for more, even though President Irfan has said this is a one-off? Let's hear it.
That's the thing, right? Even before this 100,000 or 200,000 per household thing, all this stuff was announced in the last week and a half. Guyana was and still remains to be a handout society. All right. Because we are not like the Americans. I don't know what Trinidadians are like, right? In terms of their work
Mhm,
culture. But Guyanese, we have not fully adopted the North American style of living. There's still a sense of community, or it takes a village to raise a child. And if you're mati and get sugar, you must go and borrow and help out and these things, right? So we have that ingrained in us because
Yeah.
we're relatively isolated from the modern Western world. There's still a spirit of village collaboration and helping out and
Mm-hmm.
mati this and that. And that stretches in or leaches into this beggar mentality where somebody has to always come and save us. And that is what's trapping a lot of Guyanese people, especially those who are not too educated or not too certain on how economics works, or don't have that culture of excellence in work and all of these things, right? As and I know that Guyana has a lot of poor people, right? I get it, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of people who are not necessarily as poor as they claim to be, but are still seeking handouts, in the sense that, you know, um, if I need something, the first thing I do is go to the ministry and beg. Or if I need something, I put it on social media. Oh, as a single mother, I get knocked down 2 years ago, and I can't do this. Yes, those are unfortunate situations. All right, but the massive publicization of that in society, when those kind of messages get pushed out into social media, you see a man get knocked down 2 years ago in a wheelchair, he can't feed the family. That does something to the psyche of Guyanese who are seeing it on Facebook, right? Oh, I gotta help this man. Yeah, I'll tag somebody, get some rich people on board for help them, right? And that kind of publicization of those acts of charity is an overall negative, right? And now when you have this cash grant thing coming on board, on the same day it happens, people are complaining, well, 100,000 only, it's supposed to be 1 million. The president
Mm-hmm.
said one off, they're expecting it next year, right? This
Mm-hmm.
handout seems like it's at high risk of being a very repetitive thing or a very repetitive economic feature, right? And I think that is an overall negative for the culture of work for Guyanese, right? Too
Mm-hmm.
much
Mm-hmm.
begging, too much crying out. Yes, and run into ministry for this, run into rich people and begging for that. Nobody wants to work. We don't have a culture of work. We don't have a culture of excellence. We don't have a culture of
Mm-hmm.
rising up on our own bootstraps. You know, people. This is it. If you were to do a statue of a Guyanese, they would look like this, right? If you were to do a statue of a Guyanese, they would look like this. Everything is just begging. I don't know what a Trinidadian culture is like. Maybe can you give me what is a Trinidadian culture like?
So, um, because crime is at the forefront of things,
Yeah.
unfortunately, Trinidadians do nothing. If it ain't reach my doorstep, then I safe. I good. The Minister of Finance could come and raise and tax from now till their judgment, and Trinidad is a party society. There isn't that sense of coming together to say, like in other countries, European countries, I think recently with the whole um, ports in the US when they had a whole set of striking and they
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
won everything and they got the increases and stuff. There is nothing like that.
Hmm.
The the budget was just a couple of weeks ago. All of this, all of that, and whatever taxes were implemented and all these sorts of things, and they do nothing because it's a heavy party society. It's you know what? I get my salary. I stress out or whatever. Is by the bar, is by a party, carnival is in January, all these sorts of things. And again, it's a bubble. People are living in their own bubble. I understand what you're saying in the Guyana side of things where that it's heavy there where like I kind of gimme attitude. You don't really see that here in Trinidad, but when that announcement was made by the president of Guyana, it did start to ruffle some feathers here in Trinidad. We're like, oh well, what we gain? We gain nothing. It
I look,
just sounds.
I must be the devil's advocate for the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Given the state of the economy, and and we've discussed at length the thing with US shortages and stuff, and there's the severe reduction in foreign exchange coming in,
Mhm,
there is nothing to give, right? Because think about it.
mhm,
Every political party like the UNC, or sorry, the PNM that's in power now, they want to ensure their political survival. And one of the ways they can do that is having a good economy. And if they have so much
mhm.
money that they can give a lot of tax breaks, like Guyana has been doing, and even dole out some cash, they would do that. But again, being devil's advocate for the PNM, they simply
Mm.
don't, right? They have
But
implemented taxes and austerity measures, and those will not go down well with the public. And there's a very high risk that they lose the next election, right?
the thing is, right, with all these it, to the citizens of both Guyana and Trinidad, at the end of the day, it doesn't feel enough. It doesn't feel comfortable because that 100,000 for Guyana will feel nice in the moment. Oh, I get my 100,000. Those who save it, those who don't save it. At the end of the day, that pass. It's like you eat something nice, boy. And for that
Mhm.
moment, it tastes good in your tongue, and then afterwards you just forget about it. And then something hit you, a bill hit you. You know, there isn't any sort of comfort level line to say,
Mhm.
you know what, I'm a contributing citizen to this country, and I'm talking here to both Trinidadians and Guyanese people. I contribute, I pay my taxes, I do this. Let me ask you this, Uni. If a citizen says, you know what, I pay my taxes, I contribute to the society, I do all these things, why am I not entitled to demand from the governments? I want this. What is your perspective on that? The ones who are law abiding, the ones who,
Again,
why can't I get a little something?
our political systems here in the Caribbean that we've adopted from the British, right? We are recently independent nations. I don't know any Caribbean territory outside of maybe Haiti that has been independent for over 100 years. All right. Most modern societies in the West have been independent for, like look at the US, 300 and something years now. So their political systems have evolved. Their accountability measures to citizenry have evolved. The mentality of citizens to demand better from their government, or for lobby for certain things from the government, that is in place. Our civilization in the Caribbean here has not existed for more than 80 and 90 years. So we simply do not have that mechanism built in, or culture built in, where you know we you can't put property, like, well, I think in Trinidad there was some issue with the property tax or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If Trinidad was 200, 300 years old, that would not fly. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it really has to do with that kind of stuff. You look at Finland. Look at these Nordic countries, these older societies that are 1,000 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or more. They do not have the problems of civilizations that are 300, 400 years old. The longer you get
Right.
into the age of a nation, the more sorted out those kind of issues are. They kind of settle on their system of governance, and they have
Mm-hmm.
an agreement or culture with how they want to be governed. We just simply don't have the
I
longevity yet for that.
agree. I agree.
Mhm.
I think finally, um, yeah. I think finally, I see we going on an hour already, which is good podcast timing. Um, I think finally, before we wrap up, I think we've covered um, a good basis with Trinidad and Guyana, and I think
Mhm.
I think I think in every country, even though Guyana right now is the talk of the town, Guyana still has its own issues, right?
Definitely.
Every country in the Caribbean has its own issues. If I were to say Trinidad, the number one issue is crime and foreign exchange.
Yeah.
right? I don't know was the even though if you can tell me what was like the main even
Guyana's
though the
number
all
one,
nice projects
Guyana,
going on.
Guyana's
Yeah,
number one
go ahead.
issue right now is the political divide. There, there
Mm,
are people in this country, right? And we had this discussion. There are people in this country, as okay as Guyana seems to be doing, right? There are people in this country that think that Guyana is in its darkest, most dire days. There are people that wake
wow.
up every day in this country and think we are living in hell. And then there are people, yeah. And then there are people in this country that wake up and think we are in paradise. We are one of the strongest nations in the Caribbean. President Ali
Yes,
is one of
yes,
the strongest leaders of the world, emerging
yes,
leaders, young emerging president. Like, so
yes.
that divide exists, right? There are
Hmm.
people in this country that think we are the North Korea of the Caribbean. There are people in this country that think we are Finland, the happiest nation in the in the world. So that stems from the political divide. Every time President Ali do something that is seemingly beneficial, there's a thousand naysayers ready to troll Facebook, right?
Hmm.
When Granger was in government, even though we didn't have oil and thing, the PPP side of things were hammering him every day. Both sides of the political spectrum do not let up,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's unfortunate. I like to be a little impartial in my assessment. I saw a few things of that were noteworthy in the Granger administration. I'm seeing things in President Ali's president in his presidency that are noteworthy as well. And there are a few bad things on the President Ali, and there were a few bad things on the Granger. I am only one individual. I can't change nothing, right? It's just me. But I try to be impartial. Where there's bad, there's bad. Where there's good, there's good. My responsibility at the end of the day, as a singular citizen, is to live my life in the legal way and contribute to my society. That's all I can do, and push some elements of national discourse.
Yeah, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So that's that's about it.
You are hearing me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hearing you.
One sec. All right, yeah, I think we're good now.
Yeah.
All right, good. So, final um, thing I want to ask you, and I will do my side, and then you do your side, and then we'll kind of wrap up. Um, what would you like to see for Guyana in the next 2 to 3 years?
In the next 2 to 3 years, huh? That's still quite
Yeah,
early.
let's do
In
5 because
well, first things first, right? Like I said, we have an election coming up next year, right?
hmm.
In the year of an election, things are always crazy, especially if you exist on social media. All right.
Hmm.
A farmer in rural Guyana won't know anything that's going on until election day. And he is living the happiest life. But generally speaking, if you're on social media, like a lot of people in Guyana, you probably your mental health will decline over the coming year. All right, because
Hmm.
there will be a lot of discussions about politics and this and that and mudslinging from
Hmm.
both sides. Right. So I personally would like to see that kind of stuff go away, even though I have
Hmm.
very low hopes of that happening. Outside of
Right.
that, all right, I want, if there's a transition of government, if, say, for example, President Ali loses the election or he remains in power, a government will still have to be reestablished or changed over. I hope that transition goes over peacefully because, as you know, in 2020, that did not take place and it was not
Mm-mm.
nice for the economy, right? Guyana was under sanctions and this and that, and all kind of crazy stuff took place, right? We were, um, you know, How was our electoral impasse in 2020 perceived in Trinidad?
Oh, it was entertaining. It was, I think for the that it was, how long did it last for? Like about 3 months?
5 months, 5 months.
5 months. I think for the Guyanese people in Trinidad and the persons in finance and the political space, it was interesting to see
Hmm.
because it was something where we're like, okay, what was really going on? We hearing this, we hearing that, the whole economy in this kind of limbo. Um, we it was just this because we're so Trinidad and Guyana, but we got history, right? I'm a little Guyanese twanda, we got history. This as much as we as the cricket does bring we together, right? We all know this, right? But it was just interesting to see how everything played out because every day was one thing in the United. So for Trinidad, the news was just hot all the time, you know. So it was interesting to see how
Yeah, yeah,
things
yeah.
played out, you know. But
Well, that was just
I'm glad you
a short.
touched on
That
those
was
points.
just a
I think
shortcut. That was just a shortcut of a shortcut. But just to wrap up on what some of the things I'd like to see for Guyana, like people's incomes are continue to rise, especially those involved in the oil and gas. But at the same time, there needs to be a heavy push on diversifying the economy, right? Um, our economy
you
is now maybe 50% of it is oil and gas based. We need to grow the other sectors, right? Because one day the oil and gas will run out, either through physical depletion of the reserves or through regulation. All right. So we
yeah
need to prepare our economy. We need to have a long-term view, like the Japanese or the Chinese, right? They have a long-term view of their economies, right? They think in tens of decades. They don't think in years, in a few years. So we need to adopt that long term thinking.
yeah yeah most
Hmm.
definitely. I think for Trinidad, we just need more US. That's all. Just give me a little more US. That is all we want. Just a little US and just stop, put systems in place to deal with this crime because the crime, bro, right now we have issues with um the criminal elements utilizing police clothing to
Yeah,
go
I
and do
saw about that.
robberies.
By the way, let me
Just
tell you, right? Guyanese here pay attention to Trinidad news, right? Especially crime related stuff. Like when somebody gets shoot up in a Rima, four people more than all them craziness, we know at the same time. Yeah, we know.
serious.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
wild.
yeah,
That is really, really wild. Um, Uni, this has been a good one of first episode.
yeah,
Um, I'm really, really excited for future episodes.
mhm,
Um, I think we definitely bring a good perspective. Like I said, I ain't experienced in politics. I don't like to talk politics, but again, the reason why we had to talk about this because the economic structure of a country
exactly.
dictates how we make money, how business owners make money, and all these sorts of things. So I think this is why for our first episode, we really wanted to dive into this to really sort out these, issues. And I think moving forward in future episodes, we get, like I said, I wanted to be really strategy based. Something that
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you
yeah.
guys watch the cash boardroom, you're home, you probably have little finances, you need to know what to do with it. Come to us. We wanna help you. We wanna give you a little map and a little perspective. We're gonna tell you what not to do, what to look out for, who telling you lies in the financial industry.
We're
You
gonna try
know,
and break down.
we,
We're
we
gonna try
what
and break down everything.
Yeah, and wherever whichever platform you guys watching this, if you see the clips, we want to hear your comments. We want to hear your views. Give us suggestions. give us issues to talk about it, and we're gonna be pulling it. As a matter of fact, I want you guys right now, as you're seeing this, comment down below. Tell us some of the issues that troubling you. Tell us what you want us to talk about, and we will try our best in our knowledge to share, to break it down, to tell you who lying, who ain't lying, who, 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 who.
Who's
As I
scheming
think,
and plotting?
as in Guyana, they say who Paco in ya, you know,
Yeah.
you know, all these sorts of things. So,
Yeah.
Uni, thank you so much. Where could we
Yeah, man.
find you? Just give me your socials again.
Right. So once you go to financeguyana.com, you'll find my TikTok, which is my main social media platform. I don't
Yeah.
really have any Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. So right now it's
Hmm.
just through TikTok. But I mean, if you just keep up to date with financeguyana.com, you'll
Right.
when as new developments happen, you'll be aware.
Yeah, yeah. You guys can find me on TikTok, Ishmael Big, Ishmael.big. See, Ishmael.big for all platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And yeah, you're gonna see all our information there. And also as well in the coming weeks, we're gonna be having the Cash Boardroom official pages up where you're gonna see all the
Yeah.
clips. We have plans to do like a nice little newsletter going out to everybody, short, a little blog, all these sorts of things because we wanna
Right. Right.
for the persons who might not want to listen, they might just want like a summary of the
Yeah.
podcast. We
Yeah.
plan to do all those
We're gonna
things,
do we're gonna do a
and
full build out of all the different
yeah,
streams and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
this
Mhm.
is gonna be big, and we definitely, soon we'll have things like sponsors on board, all these sorts of things. So we have a plan for you guys. So, Uni, thank you so much. I will
Yeah, man.
definitely be visiting you soon,
Yeah.
and we definitely be doing some stuff. Guys, thank you so much for being with us here on the podcast again. Drop your comments down below. Looking forward to hearing from you. Uni, thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, man. Take care.
All right, nice.